spear or mace. I want to see which is better, but first I have to explain how both of them work. The spear does damage based on how fast you are moving, whereas the mace does more damage depending on how high you've fallen from. But which does more damage? The mace can one-shot a player in full netherite armor from 5 blocks up. But a spear, you need to be flying with an elytra and rockets in order to do the same feat. This can be shown when trying to kill an iron golem. With the mace, all you have to do is ender pearl wind charge up and then hit him with a mace. He's already almost dead. With the spear, on the other hand, you have to fly, right click it, does a little bit of damage. Then you have to fly, right click it, does a little bit of damage. You go like max speed, it does a bit more damage. But overall, if you're killing an iron golem, the mace just does way better against it. This can further be shown in fights like the Wither, where with a mace, all you do is go up, hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him, and you can just chain hits like that. With the spear, on the other hand, it's a lot more time-consuming and a bit more difficult to hit him. And when you do hit him, it does about the same amount of damage. But it is so much more inconvenient to fly around with an elytra like this. A place where I think the spear is better is its range. If you just swing a sword at something, your range is 3 blocks. However, if you do a trick called attribute swapping, where you hit, then switch the spear, then switch back, like this, you get extra range. And you apply the same damage at the sword. You can do a similar thing with the mace on the thing. If you get a breach 4 mace, and you perform the same technique, you ignore your enemy's armor. So you can kill your enemy just as fast if they have no armor versus full netherite. It does not ignore protection though. You may conclude they're very equal in this regard, but imagine you're comboing someone and you had an extra 1 block of reach. That would make it quite difficult for your opponent, right? Way more difficult than if you did more damage. Doesn't matter how much damage you do, if your opponent can't hit you, you will always win the fight. Another point to consider is movement. A mace will send you 25 blocks, but you better be able to clutch. A spear will send you 15 blocks if you sprint jump with it, but each time you use it, it takes about a carrot's worth of hunger. So you have to keep that in mind. But where a spear is good is if someone's like about to land on you with a mace or you're low, you can jump and run away. And then all you have to do is eat the food that you're already going to eat. Overall, I think the spear is better for movement. You may think the spear is better than the mace just based off of what I've shown so far. However, you also have to consider synergies. Because overall, maybe on its own the spear is good, or better than the mace. But if it can't synergize with anything, then it's not really useful in anything. The spear synergizes well with the sword, elytra, and rockets, and cake, because you can place it down and eat it instantly. However, it's not great against stuff that you can easily dodge it with, and easily evade, like them sword spearing. Ender pearls, wind charges, blocks, and shield. And then for the mace, the pros are ender pearls, wind charges, an axe, because you can stun slam them and dodge a shield, and the elytra. The cons are end crystals, because you have to get high to use a mace, so it's easy to crystal someone. Turtle master potions, because you just basically do not take damage, so the mace can't really do anything. And digging down, because if you're underground, the mace cannot do anything. And then just blocks, because if you full box yourself in blocks, the mace can't really do anything. Although usually in mace kits, they're a lot heavier, and you can actually just use other items to counter them just digging into like a 1x1 hole. But for the spear, generally in heavier kits, there's a lot of ender pearls, wind charges, and shields. So the spear can't really do anything in heavier kits. But in lighter kits, the spear is really good. Like in just a sword kit, if you add the spear into it, it completely changes the game. You basically have to have a spear if you're allowed to have spears in it. Versus in like a heavier kit like mace or crystal, the spear doesn't really have a use. Because a lot of the time there's just ender pearls, wind charges, stuff that just easily can counter the spear. So generally, if you can craft a mace and you have a mace, you should use it over using the spear. But before you have a mace, you should use the spear because it can be good, especially with attribute swapping. Spear, you shouldn't really use it for your main damage, but it should be a support item, like either movement or just attribute swapping. Versus the mace, you can build kits around the mace and it's generally just a better weapon once you get more geared up. So to answer the question, the spear is better until you get a mace. Then the mace is always better because the meta is always going to go to the heavier kits. And since mace is better in heavier kits, it is better if everyone is using the most effective strategy to win, which is mace or crystal. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, just leave them in the comment section below and make sure to like and subscribe.